Well, it's that time again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the interview with Craig Veltri.
Thank you, Megan Pennington, and welcome to the interview. You may remember our guest from season 6 of The Voice, finishing in the top 8 with Team Blake Shelton in 2014. Since then, Delco's darling, as she's been christened by her hometown paper, the Delaware County Times, relocated to Nashville and has a steady stream of singles. Her most recent, Hate Being Me, which we will play at the end of the episode, shows that she has lost nothing in range and techniques as her first appearance on the national stage. I would dare say that she is better than ever with extra lyrical depth and candid perspective. Recording in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and calling in from Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA, here she is, Audra McLaughlin. Audra, welcome to the interview.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. How's it going?
It's going incredibly well now that you are here. So here's the question that I'm sure you got in some form, and hopefully not this cheesy, from a television producer from NBC. Before The Voice, when did you discover you had one?
Oh, wow, yeah. So, I mean, I kind of was one of those like nervous Nancy kids, like always kind of running around my house singing. And I had a lot of like family members, like some of my aunts say to my mom and my dad, and they were like, "Hey, your daughter has quite the voice on her." And my mom is a really good singer. I mean, she does, she sings for fun at home, but she's like too shy to do it out and about. But and my uncles were singers, and my grandfather was singer. So I guess they were like, well, maybe it's in the family. So I mean, we should see where she goes with it. And as I got a little older, my mom put me in like voice lessons, but I would say probably about like, I don't know, 8 or 9 maybe. Whenever I could really like discover I had a voice, I was just singing all the time, hearing music on MTV or whatever was happening at the time. So yeah, super young.
When you got on The Voice, Blake Shelton famously said that you were one of his favorite country singers of all time. Now, Delaware County, Pennsylvania is a suburb of
Yeah,
Philadelphia. So, was
true.
it that would you consider yourself a country singer, first of all?
Well, my whole thing was that country music has so many elements, especially today. I wasn't always just country, like I've always had more elements to my voice. Like I actually started off in rock music when I was like 14. I was in my first cover band, my first rock band, all original band actually, called The Fallen. And we toured and traveled all across like the East Coast and that sort of thing. Of course, making like no money because we were all original and whatnot.
I hear The Fallen, and I think that time frame, I would think to myself, probably influenced by Evanescence and stuff like
Yes,
that.
yes, absolutely. Evanescence, Seether, Amy, all of that stuff. I loved Amy Lee, big, still a big Amy Lee fan. But yeah, my country influences, they did start young because I do remember one of my first songs that I learned how to sing was I Hope You Dance by Leanne Womack.
Great song.
And I Will Always Love You, which of course, I had heard Whitney's version before I heard
Who
Dolly's,
hadn't?
but then discovered that Dolly Parton wrote that and Jolene, and the legend has it, in the same day. But, yeah, I think country has always sort of been a part of my story. And it's like the lyrics that I write, country music is all about the story, I think, at the end of the day. But, I would say that, yeah, my sound is definitely a mix of like country and soul and a little bit of rock and roll. It's kind of just like all this intertwined.
Well, it was a very refined voice when you finally made it up there, and obviously anybody that can say that Whitney Houston is something that you can touch upon, that Amy Lee is something that you can touch upon with your voice. You don't get there without some choral training. Was that true for you?
Yes, absolutely. I started working with a vocal coach when I was probably about 9 or 10. A lady named Michelle Offerman, and she was a great coach, and I worked with her for many years. She put me into like different recitals to kind of get me out there and get me used to being on stage. And, but yeah, it took a lot of training, I would say, but it also took, actually injuring my voice to relearn how to sing properly.
When did that happen?
Back in 2018, after I got off The Voice, I was touring a lot and I was playing all these gigs and I was, but I also, like I'm sure we'll talk about that, which is obviously a big part of my story. I was partying a lot and I was, not really taking care of my body and my throat, my voice and that whole thing. So I wasn't really probably singing properly. And I was also singing in a rock band for years. So, you got to have good technique for all of that. And so partially I blame that on myself, not my coaches, of course. My coaches were wonderful. But yeah, a lot of training, a lot of just, yeah, just
a lot
all
of that.
things.
A lot of that is actually a vocal exercise.
A lot of yes, I do a lot of vocal warm-ups before I sing, and I have an incredible coach right now. Her name is Katie Hendricks, and I've been actually working with her for the last 8 years, and she specializes actually in voices that have been injured to kind of get them back recovered where they need to be. And gosh, she's been like a godsend to me for sure. So
I would have never noticed that your pipes had been ruptured at that.
It was a scary thing. It was back in like 2017, 2018. I had like a cyst on my vocal cord, and like I said, that was it was from overuse, and I'm sure a lot of that contributed to my my party days.
I have a funny feeling that that's what has happened to me as well. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the actual voice experience. So let's put you on a sound stage back in 2014, and Shakira, Adam Levine, Usher, and Blake Shelton are facing you. That moment alone, what was going through your mind?
Whew. Every time I think about it, I get like chills, because what an incredible experience it was. But I remember. The only thing I really remember was like waiting at the door before, the door that opens before you walk onto the stage, and that's the moment where, of course, that like they're filming it and it's going to be like millions of people watching and you're like, oh my God, like what's going to happen, But in that moment, I kind of like went into a trance, I was just like, all right, just stay focused, stay focused on the song. And, of course, with the with it being The Voice, the coaches are obviously like turned, the other way at first until they decide they like you and then they turn their seat. In my case, I was very lucky to have had a 4-chair turn, which then I was just like scared shitless, of course, just standing up there like a deer in headlights, I was 21 years old and I'm like, oh, don't forget. My only thought I remember I kept saying is like, don't forget the words. I was like, don't forget the words. I was very starstruck, of course, because, I had grown up listening to each and every one of those artists. And, so of course, I looked at all of them as, idols and whatnot. And so I was like, oh my gosh, how do I act normal?
Well, it was business time after you'd gotten through the performance choosing the voice. Was there any doubt in your mind that you were going to be picking Blake Shelton, even with his signature pointing at me, pick me, pick me?
Yeah, I will say at the time, so before that whole process, during the audition process, when I was sending in like videos and stuff to audition, my vocal coach at the time and really good friend to this day, Melissa Daly, they were actually the ones that submitted my videos into The Voice. And that's kind of how the whole sort of thing like started. I totally lost track of what the question was actually.
So was there any doubt that Blake Shelton was going to be your coach at that moment? Because
yes, that's what I was getting
a country
to.
song. So
that was part of my story, and then I got like a little in ADHD world over here.
Happens to me all the time.
Hey, it makes it more real, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think at that time, in that moment, I was really focused on like, I want to move to Nashville. I want to do the country thing. I was like country, like at that very moment. And so, yeah, I did have Blake in my head. I'm so glad I picked, he was such a great coach and such a great person. But But yeah, I definitely did have it in my mind that I wanted to pick Blake as my coach. And yeah, I just couldn't believe that it ended up that way.
Has did what was the best? I usually ask in general at the end what the best advice somebody has given to you, but Blake specifically, what's the main tip that he gave you during the process?
He told me because especially back then, I was 21. I was first time on TV. I was so nervous. I was like, I just could not enjoy the moment. I was so nervous like the whole time. I was like very like just, but what he always encouraged was, remember why you started doing this in the first place. And it's because you love it, and you have a voice that can reach people in ways that others can't, and so his whole thing was just to keep doing it, to stay motivated, to stay on stage, to keep working on your craft essentially. But the main thing I remember was that he said to just remember that you love it and that, you're having fun with it, because people will be able to receive your energy when they know that you're also having fun. And I think that's a big thing. I think sometimes we take ourselves too seriously a lot of times when entertainment is supposed to come across as fun and energetic, and it's supposed to bring people different emotions. And so that's just something that I keep in mind today. When I do get those nervous feelings, I know that the reason I get nervous is because I love it so much, and I'm like, all right, now just go out there, have a good time, and do your thing.
Uh, and you have certainly done that in spades. We're here with Audra McLaughlin here on the Craig-Veltri interview, a service of Scarfire Media. For more on Scarfire Media, go to scarfireradio.net and get in on all of the artist development services that we offer: demos, EPKs. We'll even help book your shows wherever you come to, whatever areas that we have contacts in. So check us out, scarfireradio.net and Scarfire Media on all of social media. So after your time in LA, you found, I assume probably the first time you ever been to LA, you had your
Yeah.
eye on Nashville, and you start doing singles pretty much exclusively. You never really have released a full length record. Was that a cost cutting measure, or was that just, I have a really good song and I'd like it for to stand alone?
At some point I did release an EP actually. So when I first got off The Voice, I was writing a ton, and I didn't really have a bunch of music recorded at the time. I didn't really have all the pieces that I could have maybe had in place prior to going on the show, that I could have had like sort of ready for when, because when you go on a TV show like that, it's good to have maybe some of the stuff sort of behind the scenes that you have ready to sort of launch after that big platform that been exposed to.
Great idea.
Yeah, and so for me, like I didn't have anything ready, so it took me more time, and I kind of lost that momentum and whatnot. There's really only a certain kind of period of time that you get during that until they move on to the next season, and then yeah, people still follow you, and you still have fans, but that actual like momentum moment, So I dropped a 5 song like EP, and then when I started working with like a new manager, I think we had, because the quality of the production wasn't at the level of what he was sort of trying to pitch me at the time. He didn't want stuff up there that didn't really represent me anymore vocally and that sort of thing. And a lot of those songs were also previous songs that I did before I had vocal surgery. So my voice had just grown and gotten stronger and whatnot. So we had removed a lot of music off of those platforms to sort of kind of start fresh a little bit,
Yeah.
and rebrand. And that will probably happen again with this new project, with the rebranding. I'm sure things will be, moved around and whatnot. And I think that just happens every several years when an artist grows and changes as a person.
Absolutely.
Just certain things just don't really represent who you are anymore, like, yeah.
Well, I can't help myself but ask this question. One of your earlier singles, I believe it was 2007 thing, "I Wear Pink." I don't
Oh,
think
put on pink. Yeah.
I put on pink. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, and it's a very, it's the solution to every problem. Put on pink. Is that is that an example of something? Because I don't think I've ever seen you in social media or in person wearing pink. Closest you get is that red hair.
Yes, I know. The red hair is actually, I've kind of went through phases with the red hair. Like back in 2017, I had the red hair for about a year, and then I was like, and I went back to my brunette for a while, and then finally, with the last 2 years of all the changes in my life, I was like, I think I want to go back to the red hair. That feels more like me. Um,
But
but
as
put
for
on
pink,
pink, yeah, but put on pink actually was a song that we wrote for breast cancer awareness.
oh,
And so it was a title that a friend of mine had written in her, concept book and whatnot. And we started talking about it and thinking about it. And at the time, both of my aunts had breast cancer. And I said, wow. And then one of the co-writers that we were writing with also was a breast cancer survivor. So we kind of made the song a whole, kind of positivity thing of for breast cancer. And we were going to, at the time, we were trying to pitch it to like Susan G. Komen and like try to get it out there to maybe help others and whatnot, of course, partner and maybe have some of the proceeds of the song, go towards an organization, towards breast cancer. And at the time, I wasn't necessarily dealing with it on a personal level up until my mom actually is a breast cancer survivor now.
oh
So
wow.
fast forward, years go by, and then my mom has been in remission for 2 years now, thank the Lord,
Hmm.
truly. And so it has a lot more meaning now than it did back then, I think. Of course, it's definitely more because it's more personal when it's your family.
Well, I certainly can attest to that. My Aunt Sue is a breast cancer survivor, I think of 5 years at this point. So having that context of that song certainly brings a lot more depth to it. But
Yeah.
the most recent single, "Hate Being Me," I don't think there really is anything much deeper than how I've said it many times that the society is met is and especially at the culture of commerce is set around making you feel insecure. You know,
Yeah.
everything is meant to fix something supposedly wrong with you. You're too tall, you're too skinny, you're too fat, you're too short. And that is and at the end of it, if you really and I've said it myself, man, if I listen to you, I would hate me. And that's why I adore the song that will play at the end of this. Uh what were you obviously you talk about your recovery and your sobriety. How is this a recent revelation that you're in writing this, or was this something you've had on your mind since you stopped drinking and using?
I would say that I kind of had the idea for a while. I had like the title written down, but I remember just, I was still actually drinking at the time when I started writing the song.
Really?
Um, I was going through all of those motions essentially. I was not feeling good enough. I was, really down on myself, which of course was partially due to my own doing, as we say, own worst enemy. And, I just, for whatever reason, since I was a kid, I've just, I was always so insecure. I was always really down on myself. I never felt like I belonged. I always just felt like kind of an outcast for whatever reason. I don't know. But when I walked into my co-writers that day, I remember I was kind of in just like a really low point. Like I was just depressed and I just wasn't feeling myself. And I think I said something like, I said, man, I hate being a woman. And he goes, all right, that's what we're writing today. But not hate being a woman, but then it turned into hate being me because I had that sort of title and I had some things written down, some lyrics and stuff that I had started kind of in like a diary. And yeah, we sort of just put it all together into a song. And I didn't expect it to be what it is now. I mean, so many people just come up to me like just saying how much that song means to them and how much it's like helped them. And of course, I hope it gets to a bigger level where it just helps more people and whatnot. But for me, it was just a personal sort of just, hey, these are all thoughts that are running through our head that we think other people are saying about us. But a lot of times it's our own self, like we're our own worst enemy. So it's really us who's, telling us all of these things a lot of times. It's not even other people. Sometimes it's our own, you know, inner selves or whatever, just trying to self-sabotage us.
Oh yeah, fear base is what I found in
Fear,
my
yes, that's what I was trying to get at.
so.
It's definitely fear for sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk more about the about how you got out of that headspace and how you've been along in your recovery. But I do want to talk about how you come to write your songs. The standard question that I tend to ask writers in general is: Are you more of a waiter or a writer? Meaning, are you waiting for that inspiration to hit, or are you somebody that is diligently writing every day? It sounds like you keep ideas around anyway.
I think it ebbs and flows. It goes through phases, like this whole year I was writing like almost like every day it felt like, and then sometimes you hit a burnout point where you just kind of like you need to take a minute or whatever to kind of, get those creative juices sort of rocking again.
Mm.
But for me, yeah, I've kind of always been somebody that has to be inspired, but also, if I do have the time and the free time and stuff, I try to sit down and like write something. But I also hate forcing inspiration too. I'm kind of somebody who could be driving in my car and like a melody hits me and I'm like, oh, let me pull into this parking lot and get this melody real quick before I lose it. Only because, I'm neurodivergent. I am so ADHD that I have so many ideas flowing at me at all times, which is a good thing. It's a blessing and a curse, as they say.
Oh yeah.
And so inspiration is always there. It's coming at all times. And sometimes it can almost be overwhelming because you're like, oh, I missed out on a good idea. I can't remember it, or you know what I mean? And then you start. So I do better in co-write situations that are more like confined and like structured, and there's a time and there's a frame and I'm focused in that right in that moment. For me, because I'm always doing 12 different things at once.
I've been finding the value of the co-write as well because I mean I'm
Yeah.
currently I got a record coming out with a friend of mine, Megan
Awesome.
Hampton. We're working on it anyway. It'll be next year, but
I'm excited. Can't wait to.
I'm excited too. It's going to kick all the ass for sure.
Yeah.
But I would also say that just in the last year, the inspiration usually it's until the well runs dry, and then after a while, it's like, yeah, I got nothing for a couple of days.
Yes, and that's exactly how I am too. It's like, I write, co-write, write ideas, this and that, and then you're like, okay, so, take a moment and then, and then plus, you have seasons too where you have your writing seasons, a lot of times which are kind of like the more like winter seasons, the dead seasons as, we say, and then the summers and the spring are, more of the touring seasons and whatnot. But I mean, writing is writing. So I mean, yeah, there's those writers that wake up and they write all day, and I have just the utmost respect for those people because they're the reason that we have great songs out there. And and as an artist and as a songwriter, I'm always open to recording other people's songs too if I relate to it and if it speaks to me.
We'll jump back in the timeline a little bit. Audra McLaughlin on the Craig-Veltri interview on the Scarfire Media Podcast Network. Scarfire Media's takeover of the Acoustic Cafe open mic night at Mr. Small's Theater will be happening on November 10th. Check us out and all of our social media for more information on the Acoustic Cafe takeover by Scarfire Media. So, how soon after you started singing did you start writing?
I would say probably the moment I actually picked up an instrument is probably when I started writing. Like I started kind of playing around with piano maybe when I was, let me see here, like 9. And then I also was like writing like little poetry things, when I was a kid, like, or just like thoughts and feelings. But at the time, I didn't really know how to put music to them because I didn't play an instrument at the time. So I would just have all these kind of things, random things written down and didn't know, if they were a song or not. And I'm sure they probably weren't all that great, but it's, everybody starts
That
somewhere,
answers my question.
right?
That was going to answer my next question. Do you use anything from back then?
I don't know. I mean, there may be stuff that I might find that I could go, oh wow, I could use that, and maybe another song that I write. But no, I mean, it's just funny how it all goes.
Mhm.
just the whole process of songwriting. And but I would say that it definitely started to happen more when I started playing guitar, which was I was like 14 when I picked up acoustic guitar and started taking lessons, guitar lessons, and just learn the basics. And I mean, I'm still kind of a basic guitar player. I mean, vocally, and I more so love to perform and to kind of move around on stage. And but I love having my guitar, of course, but it's not my main, instrument, of course. So,
It,
but yeah,
it's easier to focus. I do as much as I can play. I'd say I'm average. I wouldn't say I'm basic myself,
yeah,
but you know, it's around your neck. It's against your diaphragm. It's a difficult thing to do two things at once. So
yeah.
if I could, I mean, my dream is to hire another guitar player and maybe pick it up for like one or two songs and just let them do the work so that I can run around and shake and twist and burn a hole in the stage. So
Exactly. Do all the stuff.
so well, and you've been doing a lot more stuff in the and I believe now 2 years since you've been sober. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just got my 2 years, I guess September 26th.
Congratulations on
Yeah.
that. That's actually 6 days after my natal birthday myself. Um,
Nice. Love
so
that.
so if it's not too painful, and if the answer is none of my business, then the answer is none of my business. But at what point for you was enough enough?
Sure. For me, it was like, being in the music industry, as you know, you're around alcohol 24/7.
Oh yeah,
It's always in your face. It's always around. I had
offered.
heard it offered free shots, this, that, the other, Um, and which is great. I mean, I know that the people that are buying are just doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They don't
Oh
know
yeah,
if,
they don't know me. Of course not.
yeah, they don't know us. They don't know how we like to drink. um, but anyway, so I think for me it was like I just got I could not take the hangovers anymore, the recovery of it, the unmanageability of my life was just, it started to become where I felt like the alcohol was taking over everything else in my life. It was like every plan that I made, it was like, oh, well, we got to drink before we go. Oh, well, do we have enough alcohol to go when we're going there? And it just felt like this like vicious cycle. And then, you know, I started to feel like I was not really on my A game at gigs. Like I was forgetting the words. I was getting drunk before shows, which is terrible. And then there came a point where I was canceling shows and or, making up things or whatever, whatever lies, I got, fired from two different gigs for being a little intoxicated. So I think it just started to become where, okay, this is not doing anything for my life, for my career, for my relationships, my family. I think my friends had enough of me at this point. They were just like, Audra, like, you have a problem. If you don't see it, I hope you do eventually, but you have an alcohol problem.
Hmm.
And I was like, what do you mean? And just total
Yeah, they're the
denial of it
last
all.
one to see it.
Total denial of it all. And so thankfully to good friends and to the inner voices that kept telling me, hey, just, you know, do whatever you need to do to get right kind of thing. And honestly, when I started to take this journey, all of the doors started opening
Hmm.
slowly but surely, as they say. It became one of these things that I was like, wow, like God is really, happy, a part of my life, and He's really making these things happen. But yeah, it was just that point where I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I just can't keep waking up like this and making these, not knowing where my car is one week, and then,
Happened to
you know what
me.
I
Oh
mean?
yeah, I do know.
The crazy insanity of it all. And,
Yeah.
just the fact that, yeah, it was getting in the way of what I ultimately moved to Nashville for. And that was to have a successful career in music, whatever success looks like, whether that means, which now I feel I am, at the success point because I'm able to do it for a living. I'm able to make money as a living musician here, in Nashville, which is kind of unheard of in other places. But I could not do that and drink at the same time. I was not that, you know, I couldn't do the rock star thing. I tried, but I failed terribly.
Uh, well, as somebody who blacked out on a couple of stages on Lower Broadway, you, thank you for retelling my story. I'll add this as well. The next step was probably going to be your voice, or for me, I was starting to lose feeling in my hands eventually. So it's good. It's good you stopped when you did, and obviously you are not. I think I'm finding for me that the not only do the doors open, but some of them tend to reopen as well. And it's obviously been opening a window into your soul with this next single. The question is never are you working on stuff, but what is the next thing coming out for you in the coming weeks?
Sure, absolutely. So I've been the last 2 years, I've been, since my recovery journey and all, I've been just, writing and writing and just putting all my energy and everything on paper. And I have been in the studio the last year, recording a lot of these songs. And now we're sort of in the process of we have kind of the 6 songs, that we want to start to take around to like managers and booking agents and maybe try to get some, something going in that regards. Get some more partnership on board. But as for right now, yeah, that's kind of the process that I'm in. I'm in that sort of in between stage of like we're trying to kind of pitch this stuff or not pitch, but shop around and sort of see maybe what kind of interest we could possibly get on just some help. I mean, because the way this works, the way this business is it requires a lot of money, of course,
Oh
it's
yeah.
connections, money, things like that. So the more help, the better, of course. And it costs money to get music out there to the masses. And so we're just hoping that maybe we can partner with a good company of some sort to sort of help us see my vision and where, I'd like to take this thing. But, as we know, I mean, it's a hard business and I'm just going to keep doing it however way I can. But, TikTok and Instagram and all the things.
The old joke about Nashville. How do you make $1 million in Nashville? Spend two. We have a nice way of closing here on the Craig-Veltri interview. It is called hitting a little too close to the bone, did I? We have a nice way of closing, Audra, on the Craig-Veltri interview. It's called the No Kidding Questionnaire. A couple of rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to your mind, whenever you're ready, and away we go. Childhood celebrity crush.
Oh, Chad Michael Murray.
Chad Michael Murray. I know the name, refresh my memory.
He was on One Tree Hill. He was like one of the main guys. Yeah. I also there was another guy that I liked, Leonardo DiCaprio, but I had all these pictures
Now, I
on
think
my
I've heard
wall.
of him.
I had a lot of celebrity crushes, let me tell you.
So if I recall, just kind of, angular chins, blonde hair, blue eyes. Have we found a type for Audrey McDonald?
What is it?
Have we found your type? It's because seems like you like angular faces, blue eyes, and blonde hair.
Oh, a type. Oh, I got you. Type of man. I would say these days I don't really have a type. I think as you grow and you you change, you just kind of go, well, you just want to find somebody that you relate to and you connect to and somebody that understands your heart and your soul and gets you and all the things. So I think probably through the years, maybe my type has changed. I definitely always went towards the jocks and you know, um, yeah, the blue-eyed Tom Brady. Tom Brady was another crush that I always had.
As a Philadelphia native, are you sure you want to say that out loud?
Listen, all of my friends growing up that knew and know that I'm a huge Eagles fan always would laugh at me because when I was younger in like elementary school, I don't know, like I just loved Tom Brady through the years. I had the biggest crush on him. And my dad, of course was like, "Oh, don't wear that jersey around." But
You
one
had his
time
jersey.
I had my dad, well, my parents, I was younger, so of course, like they wanted me to have, what I wanted or whatever. And for Christmas, I think one year they got me like a pink Tom Brady jersey, and I wore it around school like all the time. And my guy friends would be like, "What are you wearing that Tom Brady jersey for?" And I'd be like, because I want Tom Brady to be my future husband. Whatever. Anyway, but yes, it definitely didn't take away my love, for the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, it was just, one of those young crushes and whatnot.
Well, I will just I hope your taste in men have improved. Uh,
Me too. I think my friends would agree with that too.
moving on with the questionnaire. What was your favorite subject in school?
Favorite subject in school was history.
Okay. Uh, any particular subject or topic in particular that got you fancy on it?
I would say that the JFK, the everything, that happened in there, I was always very interested in like the JFK case and just the conspiracies and all of that sort of stuff. I was also very interested in the Holocaust because I was a big fan of, I read the Anne Frank book, the Anne Frank diary when I was younger, and I read it a couple times. I just loved that book. And, for whatever reason, that story, I just connected with it. I don't know what it was, but it just broke my heart. And so I just had always been interested in, the Holocaust and what happened and, that part of that era. And I even took a Genesis and Holocaust class when I was in my senior year of high school, because I was just very interested in that particular part of history.
I've gone to the Holocaust Museum in Washington on a class trip. It's a and in
Oh,
reading Anne Frank's story, it was what always stood out to me was just how much hope in a desperate situation that young girl had, and
yes.
I always hold on to
Oh,
that.
me too. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that book just like you can feel, you feel like you're there with her in that moment when you're reading that book, and it still gives me chills. But yeah, I went to the Washington Museum as well, and gosh, I don't think any of us came out with dry eyes. I will say that.
Mhm. I'll tell you. Well, I hope it stays open within the coming years. What occupation other than your own would you like to attempt?
Ooh, before I was always interested in healthcare, because I've always loved to help people and I've always been a caring person. And so, I would say if I wasn't doing music, I would have probably pursued a career in like nursing or I was actually in medical assisting school prior to The Voice, and I was going to then, work up to nursing or whatnot. But yeah, some kind of healthcare to help people.
Hmm. As the grandson of a nurse and the nephew of one as well, that would have been I think he would have done lovely at that. On the other side of the coin, I don't care how many bags of money are handed to you, Audra. What job would you never want to attempt?
Oh, job that I would never want to attempt.
And it can be
Oh,
something you've done before.
okay. You know, I guess I just got to be real. I'm bartending, honestly. I mean, and that has nothing to do with like even like drinking or whatnot. It's just the fact that I watch these bartenders, these servers break their butt, like work like so hard and deal with crazy people like us all friggin' day, So I would say I just I could not be a bartender. I couldn't. It's just it's a job that I respect. I respect the workers, but could not deal with all of that.
I consider myself service industry adjacent.
Yeah.
I I get to watch how tunnel vision these people are day in and day out. Even when even when we're not even playing to them, they're kind of focused on okay, what needs to be cleaned, okay, what tabs are open, okay,
Yes.
okay, what station's going on. I stopped asking them for requests like this past summer. It's just like
Yeah.
what it's because like all of a sudden it's like hey let's pick a name. Hey Sophia, what do you want to hear? And all of a sudden she's like, boop. Yeah, it's like yeah. So all of a sudden I drew her out of nothing, and then all of a sudden I can't get a request, and the show is stalled, and it doesn't even matter what I shouldn't have even done that, and I can't be that tunnel vision either because I too am like several different ways of neurodivergent myself. So yeah,
Yes, of
couldn't do it.
course.
Great staff, wait staff busting. I'm glad I'm only there for 4 hours and I'm just the musician.
Well,
Speaking.
yes, exactly. Because I worked in the food industry, so I have the utmost empathy for all of them.
Oh yeah, me too. Moving on with the questionnaire. What is you're going to be back and forth and have been back and forth quite a bit. What's your go-to food on a road trip?
Ooh, go to food on a road trip. I would say that typically I pack stuff that's easy, like sandwiches and just fruits and stuff like that. But I mean, I'd be
Okay.
lying if I said that we didn't stop at places like McDonald's or Wendy's or Taco Bell. It really just depends on the show or the time of the night or but I do try to keep healthy things with me. That's definitely more the
So
goal.
what is your go-to sandwich? What do you make?
Ooh, I just like in a good old fashioned Italian or even just, turkey and cheese with, lettuce, tomato, onion, I kind of like all of it really. Throw all the stuff on there. A good old hoagie, as we say back in Philly.
We say it in Pittsburgh, and should I
Oh
mention?
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't. It's a one. I do love a good sandwich in myself, and I am in fact a good Italian. If you are. I can't believe I said that. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, dinner with anybody dead or alive. Gosh, that question always stumps me, but because I'm staring out, I'm right here, I'd just say Elvis Presley.
I have been to Graceland. I played Memphis a bunch, but I actually did go to Graceland during Christmas time.
Oh my gosh, beautiful.
Have you
I've
been?
been there. I have. Yes, I went and seen his place about 3 years ago. I was out on a radio tour thing and we were out in Memphis and I was like, we gotta do Elvis, we gotta see Elvis's place. And yeah, that was so cool.
Uh,
Gosh.
I have. I I've never will forget the sight of all of the sequin jumpsuits in that museum. All
Yeah.
of them, like 3 stories high and house wide. And how many
I
those
know, I
cases?
know. I just love the colors and just like, oh, those are like my favorite.
Do you have every? I think every artist, if they're honest with themselves, they have sung an Elvis song and love singing an Elvis song. Mine is "Can't Help Falling in Love with You." What is yours?
I would say, yeah, I can't help falling in love. That's definitely one that I've done for a really long time. But I like Kentucky Rain, that's another good
Oh,
one.
I want to do that one. I want to learn that one.
Yeah, but I've been singing the I Can't Help Falling in Love with You for many years, so that's definitely a go-to, that people tend to request quite a bit.
I I I don't know why, but nobody ever requests Elvis out of me. But I remind them. What is Audra your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh, pet peeve. I don't like mess. I don't like clutter. I can't deal with like, people that because I'm kind of unorganized. The way my brain works, the way I organize is the way that looks organized to my brain and how my brain works. So other people that are just kind of like there's stuff everywhere and they don't put things back and there's like things here and there and whatnot. Just like clutter and like mess. I just can't do. I need a little bit of space and so I would say definitely that's like for sure a pet peeve. I also don't like when like people like blow their nose at the dinner table out to dinner in a restaurant. I think
Really?
I don't know what it is, but that's been something that I've hated for so long. And I understand some people can't help it. If they have a sneeze coming on, you got to deal with it. But if somebody just literally just like starts blowing their nose at a table in the middle of a restaurant, I just find it rude because you're trying to eat. Like,
Hmm.
go into the bathroom and maybe do that is kind of my point. There's exceptions, of course, there's,
On a cloth napkin, no less. That's an extra. Somebody's got to wash that later. I get it.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, but I just know for me, there's been so many times I've been out to eat and I've been in the middle of eating and I've heard somebody do that and I just totally lose my appetite. And that's a me thing. That's maybe just a my problem, whatever.
Uh, yeah, that it is definitely a first in this question, but uh, last question of the questionnaire. What is the best advice? We've already talked about what Blake Shelton told you, but what is the best advice that anyone has ever given you?
Ooh, that's a tough one too. I will say that you know, my dad just always says like just enjoy this life, and enjoy the life that you got. Like don't get don't get upset if things don't happen the way that you want them to happen and that sort of thing because I think at the end of the day, it's, our journey is where the universe takes us essentially. It's like it's we want what we want, of course, like or we have all these plans and all these things, but I would say that probably the best advice was just to, you know, follow your dreams and just like keep doing, basically what I'm doing and that's just to keep helping others and just to be a voice for others who are still struggling or may not feel comfortable to speak about their struggles and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, just the biggest thing is to just not put too much pressure on my future and not to put too much pressure on you know what needs to happen and just staying in the moment. Staying in the moment is a big thing for me, I think. So I'm sure there's been other advice, but of course I can't think of anything right now.
Well, the thing that I've noticed about your voice is that there's just such an ease in your delivery with it.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Yes, there is technique. Yes, there is power, but I've noticed this, and I won't name names of the singer. You can tell that it is a challenge for them to do all the runs and to do all that stuff and to do everything with you. There's not just an ease in the delivery, but just an ease in your presence, and that's what I've enjoyed in getting to know you and getting to know your music. And with that said, we have one last bit of business here. This is the part of the program that every artist and guests that I have on this show should enjoy the most. It is time for shameless self promotion. The new single is out. Where can we find it? Where can we find you and all your dates? Plug your pluggables. Fire away.
Yes, plug the pluggables, absolutely. So I've got Hate Being Me out, which is still, my current single. And you can find that on, Spotify, on, Apple Music, Google Play, wherever you can download and stream music. Also, YouTube. I have a website, audramclaughlin.com. I would say that that's the best place to go because that has everything linked. My Instagram, my TikTok, my Facebook, my YouTube channel. These days we're working with so many different platforms. So I always just tell people go to my website and that's where you'll find the latest information.
Well, Audra, I would wish you luck, but luck is for losers. You're doing incredible work, and I can't
Oh,
wait to
thanks,
hear
Craig.
more. I can't wait to hear more out of you in
Yeah.
person, in media, and whatever's coming next for you. And Audra, thank you so much for joining us today on the Craig-Veltri interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
The Craig-Veltri interview, where Craig-Veltri interviews wonderful people, is a production of Scarfire Media, the voice of the independent artist. Written and edited by Craig-Veltri. Your announcer is Megan Pennington. The opening theme, Shut Up I Love You, written by Trenton Chandler, performed by Craig-Veltri, produced by Jack Gavin. The new single, Saving Up Dreams, is available now on all streaming services. Mark your calendars now, November 10th, Monday, November 10th, Monday, November 10th, Monday, November 10th. That will be when myself, Megan Pennington, and the entire gang at Scarfire Media takes over Acoustic Cafe at Mr. Small's Theater. The Acoustic Cafe open mic at Mr. Small's, Monday, November 10th. Sign-ups, as always, at around 5:30. Get there early. There's always a big line with a whole lot of talent wanting to get on stage, wanting to be heard, and deserves your attention. We look forward to being facilitators that evening at Acoustic Cafe's open mic at Mr. Small's Theater in Millvale, Pennsylvania. Scarfire Takeover. Also, myself and Megan Pennington will be making an appearance with our friends Bob Cupp and Utah Burgess on the Grassroots Show on the Rock Station 97.7 Butler Radio. We are more than excited to be in studio together to perform some songs that will appear on Moonshine Vagabond's new upcoming record that we will be recording in December, called Inside the Cabin. That appearance will be taking place on Monday the 10th. It's going to be a busy day for myself and Megan, but will air on Sunday, November the 16th on 97.7 and available streaming on 97.7, the rock station's website. Time now to update my event calendar because you must know where I am at all times. Friday, October 16th, I will be at Carmela's Plate and Pints on Carson Street in Pittsburgh from 6 to 9 p.m. Saturday, October 17th, Tin Roof Memphis on Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee from 3 to 6:30 p.m. Sunday, October 18th, Distillery in Midtown, Nashville, Tennessee from 3 to 6 p.m. Then on Monday, October 19th, a writer's night with Debbie Champion at the Commodore Grill in Nashville, Tennessee. My round begins at 8:30 Central Time. For full dates, including Charlotte, North Carolina, Canton, Ohio, Nashville, and Memphis again, visit my website, craig-veltri.bandzoogle.com. For booking info, including full band and this podcast, email me at craig-veltri@gmail.com. You can find the interview on Facebook by searching the Craig Veltri Interview, YouTube at Craig Veltri Music, and you can find me on Instagram, or as my older mate, the Tommy Thomas used to call it, Instagirl at craig.veltri. For Audra McLaughlin, I'm Craig Veltri, and this has been the Craig Veltri Interview. With that, I'll pass. Here's the latest from Audra. Here's Hate Being Me on the Craig Veltri Interview, proud member of the Scarfire Media Podcast Network.
They say I love too hard, I fall too fast, give away so much of myself, I'll never get it back. I get too mad when life don't go my way. I look in the mirror at all the things they say I should change. To hell with what they say. I'm too short, too tall, too fat, too small. How do I live with myself? I'm too weak, too strong, never right, always wrong. My life would be a living hell if I listened to the world and what they believed. I'd hate being me. Every day's a fight, I'm finding now, to give myself a little grace and lay these weapons down. I pray every day, I see in time how every scar, every mark, every flaw makes me one of a kind. So short, too tall, too fat, too small. How do I live with myself? Too weak, too strong, never right, always wrong. My life would be a living hell if I listened to the world and what they believed. I'd hate being me. And who I'm trying to be. If I listen to the world and what they believed, I'd hate being me. But I don't.